We are moving into the winter time. We are having weather that is colder, and it is time for soup. Soup is the classic winter weather food, and I have made a year of soup videos. It came out from March last year to March this year, and I've had a look through and decided to pick out my top 10 of those soups so that you can have a look at them and see what you think, and let me know in the comments which soup would be your favourite. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've got my spinach, which is still frozen, and I'm just going to dump it in there in the pan, and I'm going to pour a little, it's basically the dribbles of what I've got left in the kettle, of water on it. So it's hot water, so I'm just going to leave that to kind of help defrost it a little bit. I'm going to put the lid on because any steam from the kettle water will help to defrost it a little bit quicker. Now I'm not going to waste that water because some of the spinach juice will come out in that water, so I'm going to use that as well. I've also got, a while back, what I've been doing is if I'm going to be cooking onions a lot, I've been cooking like batches of onions and caramelising them and freezing them in cup sizes. So I've got one of my onion pots there. So I'm going to use that. So I'm going to leave that to defrost. So the main thing I'm going to do to start with is just let everything defrost. And then I'll start cooking. So what I've done is I've squozen spinach, and this is the spinach liquid. I will be using some of that. So in this pan I've got the heat on now, and I am just going to heat through these onions that we have already caramelised. Put your teeth back in, Samantha. And just warm them through. Makes it a lot easier when you've already got your caramelised onions done. Then what I've done as well is I've boiled the kettle, and I'm going to use some of my bouillon powder to give that extra lovely flavour. So I'm going to put a sprinkle of that in. Mix that up. I've said before, if you've not got bouillon powder, use a mixture of a stock cube with some extra onion powder, garlic powder. Have a look at what flavour enhancers you've got in your spice drawer if you've got much of those. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start toasting up this paella rice. Like I say, it should be arboreal, but I haven't got any. But I have got 2 things of paella rice that I forgot I had. So, as rice lasts for ages, we can pop that in. So I'm going to go in with some of that. That's probably about 100 grams of rice, and I'm just going to toast this off very slightly. And while this is toasting off, I'm going to fix my hair because I'm having a bit of it's all coming out. So fix that while everything else toasts. There we go, pop that back down where it was, roughly. Was that where it was? Do you know, I positioned this and then forget where I've positioned it. There we go. Okay, toasting the rice off. I'm going to add a little bit of the spinach water to start with. Give it a mix. Get rid of any bits that are stuck down the side. And we're going to let that spinach water completely absorb into the rice while I twist my hair, find a clip and tuck it back in again. There we go. I think we are back to business as usual. That'll do for now anyway. There we go, that's pretty much soaked in. Pour the next bit in. Just make sure all those kernels of rice are, oh, Tilly's around, scrape back down into the pan. I'll just pop that last bit in, finish it off. Then the rest I've got next is just my kettle. And we're just going to let that thicken up slightly. Give it a minute. What I want to do is I want to create, I don't want a paella, I don't want a risotto, I want a soup, but I want to get the starchiness of this rice to create the thickness of the soup, because I don't want a really runny soup. So if I get this working in a really good way, it'll give us that thickness. Right, that'll do. Risotto is apparently the death dish of all cooking competitions, but like I say, we're not making risotto. I'm not too worried about it. I'm quite happy to put more water in. There we go. And just put it on a low heat and let the rice absorb. Now all I'm going to do now is just cook this until that rice has gone nice and tender, and then we're going to put our spinach back in. Okay, I'm back. I've just been to the fridge. I just think a little bit of lemon is just gonna take this over the edge. It just needs a little bit of zing. Don't go mad, just a little bit. Let's try it now. A bit more in there. Oh yes, yeah, definitely a little bit of lemon in there just takes it to that next level. You could have ended to put more salt in, then you would have ended it with it salty because you think that it needs something, and sometimes all it needs is a bit of lemon. Excellent. Now if you've not got a whole lemon zest, use a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of acid, just takes that over the edge. That is a hearty soup. That is going to fill us up tonight. Going to be delicious. Brilliant. Today we're making, it's called Zupa Kopacała. I hope I've said that right. It's a Polish soup. It is a Polish potato with dill soup. Now, last week my dad was at Withington Hospital, and if anybody's from Manchester, you know where that is. And it's next door to a place called Didsbury, and there are lots of lovely places to eat there. And because my dad was in the hospital having a procedure done, I had some time to kill. So I went to this cute, lovely little cafe called Mary and Archie's. So super cute, and they did soup and a sandwich for £6.50, which I thought was a bargain. And this was the soup that they served. So it's potatoes, carrots. It's meant to be spring onion, so I apologise, and I'm using an onion because I've not got any spring onion. It's meant to be fresh dill, but I don't have any. I did have a look out for some fresh dill, but could not find any anywhere. Some stock, some cream, and some nutmeg, and obviously salt and pepper. And there's a little bit of butter in there to go to start with. And the reason I know these ingredients is because I was cheeky enough to ask, and the chefs emailed me the recipe because I was nice and I asked, because you never know. You don't, I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get, and the worst they can say is no. So I'm going to have a go at making this slightly altered version of it and see if I can make it taste even 80% as good as what they made it, and it will still be delicious. So we're going to start off with our cooking down our butter and popping in our onion and sauteing that off slightly, and then we will add in some of the other ingredients. But it's basically going to be a put it together and cook it in the stock soup. There we go. So there's not much early prep to do other than softening this onion, which, like I said, should have been the white and slightly pale green parts of a spring onion. So I'll start with that, let that saute down, and then we'll pop in the other ingredients. I've been cooking the onions on a low heat and they're now nice and translucent, so I'm just going to add everything else. Carrots in. These are just thin rounds of carrots, and the potatoes I just cut into bite-sized chunks, so they can go in. And then all we're going to do is cook this in some stock. I've just used normal stock, not my vegetable bouillon, because I didn't want to have too much of a strong flavour. There we go. So push that down, and enough to make sure everything's covered. That was a good guess. Now I'm going to add a little bit of dill now because I want it to soften because I've not got the fresh dill. So let's have a look at that. So we're just going to put in approximately half a teaspoon of dill now. I'll let that soak in. I'm going to put a lid on this, I think, just slightly skew with so that it keeps most of the heat in. And I'm just going to cook this until the veggies are cooked. So I'm probably thinking the potatoes, maybe 15-20 minutes, depends. We shall see. I've just checked the potatoes and they are tender, so I've just popped them on a spoon and there you go. That's all done. I'm going to have a little bit of taste. We will see if we need any more dill in there. Oh, a pinch more, I think, just to, and I think I might sprinkle a pinch on when we serve. But it doesn't need much more because it's got a really nice flavour behind it. So I'm going to add now, it says nutmeg, so I've got my little nutmeg. I love this. My little my nutmeg grater. So let's go in there with some of that. Nutmeg always goes nice with potatoes, I think. So there we go. I do think that's the cutest little sieve going. Give that a little mix. Now we're going to add some of our cream. This is my soy cream. A good glug of that to make it nice and creamy. I think I've put a bit too much in there. I don't think the soup I had was that creamy, but I'm a bit naughty in with my cream. But I know it's going to make the flavour really good. A pinch of the old salt. A crack of pepper, because it does say salt and pepper. So I'll put a crack of pepper on there as well. Probably add a little bit more pepper to Chris's because he's a bit of a pepper fiend. Now let's do a proper taste of some potato, of a little bit of carrot. Get on there, carrot. That carrot does not want to get on there. Let's try. Start with that carrot and then chase the potato. There we go. That is really, really nice. Is it 100% the same as Mary and Archie's? No. Am I 80% there? Yes. Would I go back to Mary and Archie's for this soup? Heck yes. I'm even going to send them a copy of the video and the link to the video so they can have a watch. Right, soup is ready. I'm going to go and eat. So this soup we're making is going to be a ravioli soup. So I've got this spinach and wild garlic ravioli that I got from an oleo haul. Spinach from an oleo haul. So what we're going to do is I've just cooked off some onions. These have softened off quite nicely. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic. This is just some garlic, jarred garlic. So a clove or two of that, depending on how much you like. Mix that in. And then just some jarred tomato sauce. This is stuff we've made at home. To that, I'm going to put in some water, just to thin it out slightly, and also make sure we're using up all the bits from that. Give that a little stir. That's that. A little pinch of bouillon powder. If you've not got bouillon powder, throw in a stock cube. A little bit more water. Probably another couple of 100 mils of water. We're going to let this come to the boil, and once it comes to the boil, that's when we're going to throw in our ravioli, and then our spinach is going to go in afterwards. Oh, just as well, get some mixed herbs in there as well, just for a little bit of flavour. So a good teaspoon to a tablespoon of mixed herbs, depending on how intense you want them, and give those a mix. Right, now the sauce is boiling away. I'm going to dump the pasta in there and give that a good couple of minutes, and then we're going to add some spinach. Right, throwing in a bit of spinach, a couple of handfuls, because that should be enough to go through this. 2 more minutes and we're all good. Right, this is all done and dusted. It's just a case of tasting everything now, making sure it's seasoned. So I'm just going to taste the soupy bit. A little bit of salt, I think. Yeah. Throw that in, give that a mix. See how that tastes now. Yeah, that's definitely much better. So let's taste the pasta with a little bit of spinach. Here we go. Oh, hot. Hot but super tasty, really good. We're going to have that with a little bit of sourdough bread that we got on an oleo, with a little bit of butter and a little bit of garlic on it, so it's like a fake garlic bread. That's going to be delicious. Righty ho, we've got some leftover Christmas bits. We had vegetarian meals, so obviously no meat here, but you can still add your meat if you want to add meat. No pigs in blankets left, because there are never any pigs in blankets left. Anyway, I do have a little bit of vegan meat that we made, which is our sandwich meat. A couple of roast potatoes, although there were more, but as you open the fridge, it's handy to nick a roast potato. A few sprouts, a bit of stuffing, some parsnip and some carrots. So we're going to make this into a minestrone-style soup. So in a pan over here, I have got on, just turn that pan on because I'm going to pour water in a second. Won't go on. There you go, it's lit. I have got some spaghetti that I broke up into very small, like centimetre and a bit pieces. All I'm going to do is I'm going to add a pinch of my bouillon powder, or break off a little bit of a stock cube, or you could just use water or add some more herbs to your soup later on. I'm going to put that on. I'm going to put a little bit of water in there because I know that the spaghetti is going to take a little while to get going, but I'm not going to put much in. Just going to give that a swish round, ready to get that going, because I want the spaghetti sort of on its way before I add any other ingredients, because the other ingredients are not going to take long at all to cook, because we are going to chop them into little small pieces like you would for a minestrone soup. So back to here, and like I say, we're just going to get out each item and just chop it into small pieces. So that's all we're going to do to start with. Now the meat, I'm not going to cut into small pieces. I'm going to cut into shreds. So it's like that. Okay. The sprouts, which are nicely squidgy. I can't do this one-handed, but I'll show you those in a minute, but they're going to be shredded up. The sage and onion stuffing I'm going to use like a topping, so I'm going to just put that onto a piece of foil. So we'll have a look at where we're up to in a second. Okay, you can see now how I've done everything. So just chunky dice on the carrots and the parsnip, shreds on the meat, sort of slices of the sprouts, chunky pieces of the potato, and I've put this on to the foil. So the sage and onion stuffing is going to go very carefully. Just pop this down into the air fryer. Just because I want to crisp it up, because sometimes you have croutons as part of a minestrone style. So I am going to just broil these. So that's a direct heat. I'm not preheating, I'm not doing a turn. I'll turn the time down, although I'll keep an eye on it. Oh right, can you not change the temperature? You can't change the temperature on a broil. Oh okay. Let's start and see how it does. Right. I've not used the broil bit on the air fryer before, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it won't blow it everywhere. Right, spaghetti is on its way to being pretty much cooked, so we're going to throw in all our other veg. There we go. And our little shreds of meat. Give this a stir, see if we need any extra liquid. I think a little bit of extra liquid on there will be good. Where did I put the kettle? Have I got any more left in the kettle? No. Right, a little bit more water. Won't be a second. Got a little bit more water. That should just be enough. We don't want it too runny. We want it just enough so that it's a nice chunky soup. So we're going to give this chance to heat up. We're going to keep an eye on the air fryer, and then we will serve up. Air fryer's finished. This has gone nicely crispy. What I did was I just tucked the foil underneath this little grill part so it didn't fly around everywhere. We did lose a couple of little pieces, but not to worry about. That's gone a nice little bit crispy. That took about 4 minutes to do that. And over here the soup is now nice and warm. Let's do a quick taste. I don't think it's going to need much seasoning because I had seasoning on all my vegetables, and also my meat that I used was seasoned as well with quite a few herbs in it. So I'm just going to have a taste of the brothy part of it. Yeah, that's really flavourful. If you've really seasoned your veg, don't mind me double dipping, it's mostly for me this. If you've really seasoned your vegetables for your Christmas dinner, you will not need seasoning in here. And plus, my stock that we started off with is really good. Let's check that our little bits of spaghetti are cooked. Lovely. So we're going to serve this up in a bowl. There we go. And sprinkle our little sage and onion croutons style on top. It's steaming. I'm going to burn my mouth, but let's go for a good mouthful of all sorts of bits of this. Give me a second because there's going to be lots of blowing involved. Ooh. The main reason for making this particular soup today is I have still got loads of this tender stem broccoli left. I got loads of it last month and I think the end of December possibly. And I got absolutely loads of it. And if you've seen other videos, you know I've been roasting it in the air fryer and it's been brilliant. But I've got these last 2 packs left. They're not too bad, but they need using up. We need some soup, so we're going to do a soup with broccoli. I looked up online on the lovely Pinterest, broccoli soup, and one of the top ones that came up was this broccoli and cauliflower soup, and we do have cauliflower, although I'm a bit scared to open this because I can't remember when we last went to Iceland, and I have a feeling that it slightly might be mostly ice. Well, that's going to add water to the contents of this, this soup. But the good thing about soup is you don't notice that it's been slightly freezer burnt when it's in there. So just use it up anyway. Don't throw it away. Granted, if I pull it out and it's dry as a bone and it looks horrendous, I will not be using it. but I think we should be okay. So added to that, we're going to have some garlic, we're going to have some onion. I got a bit of red pepper, so I'm going to throw a little bit of that in as well. We've got some chopped tomatoes. We have also got a little bit of chili flakes to add a bit of a pep, oregano, mixed herbs, and I think we'll be throwing some stock in there as well. And we're going to do it in the slow cooker. So the first thing I'm going to do is slice and dice everything and check this cauliflower out properly. So I've chopped up the broccoli. You can see what I did was at the stem end, I just did small, probably 1/2 centimetre cuts and left the florets at the top nice and bigger chunks. Carrot just in chunks, pepper just in chunks, cauliflower. Right, so I put all the cauliflower from the bag into this container, poured a bit of boiling water over the top just to get rid of all the ice that was in there, and it's not looking too bad. We're not too far gone. I've chopped it up into smaller pieces as well, just so that it cooks a little bit quicker and easier, but we're not looking too bad. That's the good thing about soup, is you can get away with all sorts of slightly not looking so great vegetables, and I need to be a better custodian of my freezer. I did a freezer video at the beginning of this month, so this soup video is going to come out at the end of February, but if you go back to the beginning of February, there is a video that comes out that's based, the title is I think From Freezer to Face, because it was just stuff I had in the freezer that I could just put in a pan and it can go straight in my face, and it was yummy. But I definitely do need to keep an eye on what I put in there. I mentioned in that video, I'm very good at making sure that, I've got all this extra fruit or vegetables. I'll chop it up, I'll put it in the freezer to save it, and then I forget that it's there. So I need to do better. That's part of my thing for this year, I think. Not my New Year's resolution, because I don't like making those, but part of my plan for this year is to be a better custodian of my freezer. Anyway, back on with this. So we've got that in there. I'm literally just going to pour all the other ingredients in. So there's our tomatoes. That's about a normal can sort of size, so about 400 grams. That's all our pepper, and let's get our onions and our broccoli and get it all in. I think this is going to fill this, which is what I like. If I'm going to do a slow cooker, I like to do a full slow cooker, because I can always freeze the leftovers. Oh, that's really bad. Actually, I might can these. At least if they're on, if I can them, they're a bit more stable and last a bit longer. Anyway, mixed herbs, probably a good teaspoon of that. Oregano. Again, I'm going to go for a couple of teaspoons of that because I like oregano. Not too much chili. These are just chili flakes that I dried myself, so a good pinch and a bit. You can always add more based on what you like. My garlic, which is only going to be jarred garlic. So that's one. That's a big one. So that's like maybe three medium-sized cloves of garlic. Just need to get something to give that a little bit of a mix. There we go. Now we've got some water in there already. I think I'm going to put a little bit more just to, there we go. Cover it just about. Pop the spoon back in there. Going to get some of my bouillon powder. If you know me, you've watched this channel, you know I'm addicted to this bouillon powder because it is so flavourful. So 1, 2, 3 teaspoons roughly of bouillon powder, because it adds so much flavour. I'm not going to put any salt in until we taste at the end, because there's plenty of flavours going on in there. Right, slow cooker is on high to start with, and then I am going to reduce it down, and then we will go on low till probably Chris comes home, so a good 6+ hours. We are good to go. This has been rocking and rolling all day, cooking away looking at, oh, look at all those vegetables. This is going to be so hearty. Let's have a little bit of taste of the sauce. It's not too hot because I never find the slow cookers get like too steaming hot, but I'm going to just take a little bit and have a taste. Ooh. Oh, I can taste all that oregano. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Now, if you wanted to make this even more wholesome and hearty, you could add a tin of beans. You could have had some barley earlier on. You could throw in some cooked rice. But this is all good and delicious. And these veggies, even though this has been in here for ages, are not too... They've still got a little bit of bite to them. They're not like mush. That's good. That's really tasty. That could also actually be the base of so many other dishes. You could turn that into a pasta sauce or any other kind of thing. But that's our soup tonight. We're going to have that with some bread we got from Marks and Spencer's for free. See the end of the month grocery haul and you'll see how we got that. Smarty, that cat. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. I'm going to have to give him some more food. He's had so much today. I got this fennel a little while back and I forgot about it in the fridge and I couldn't think of what to use it for. And then Chris is not a massive fan of fennel because it's the anise flavour. He's a bit about it. Then I spotted a couple of apples that were starting to look a little bit dodgy. So I was like, okay, do you know what? Fennel and apple salad would have been good if everything was looking great. But fennel and apple soup could work. So I just chucked it in a freezer bag. And I'm going to cook it from frozen. So I'm just going to pop the heat on. Dump this in. So this is one fennel, fronds and all. A couple of apples. We're going to bung it in there. We're going to add a stock cube. So I've just got a bog standard vegetable stock cube. We're going to pop that in. And I'm going to put a little bit of water in. Maybe halfway up where the fruit and veg is. To about there. I'm going to pop the lid on and see what happens. I'm not going to add any other flavours as yet because I honestly do not know what it's going to taste like. So we're going to cook it, puree it, and then do a bit of a taste test. Just realised I started blending and I thought I'd done a little bit to talk about it and I'd not pressed record. So I was saying, this was about cooked long enough for me to wash the pots, which was about 8 minutes. We used boiling water, so that's probably kick-started it. And everything's pretty tender, so that's why we are blending. Right, I've not added any seasoning or anything to this apart from the stock cube, so we're going to have a little taste and then decide what we need to add. Okay. Salt to start with. It's got... I am double dipping, forgive me, it's my soup for me. Chris won't be having any, so it'll only be me who'll be eating this. I want to say it's got a bit of a stuffing flavour to it. So, if I want, it's quite nice. The fennel doesn't blend down completely. I can imagine if you put it in a proper stand blender, it will blend down even better. Ours is broke, so we can't use that one. Do you know, you can probably get away with a little bit of sage in there. Where is my sage? Where is my sage? Aha! I found it. And I'm only going to put the tiniest of pinch of sage in there. Just to give it a little bit of a... I say it feels a bit... I want to say Christmassy. That'll work. Yeah. A little bit of sage in your fennel and apple soup. And when I say a little bit, I mean, you know, pinch between the fingers amount, like not just much more than that. If you want to add a little bit more, you could do. Maybe a little bit of white pepper. Again, just the merest smidge. It's just going to give it a little bit of ambient heat behind it. Yeah, that'll do. Slightly Christmassy flavoured soup. We're going to make a sweet potato soup with lots of chunky things in it. This will not be a pureed soup. This will be all nice and chunky. So I've got an onion, some pepper, some sweet potatoes that I am just going to chop into cubes. So about a couple of centimetres, or old money, about an inch. I've got some black beans, I've got some sweet corn, I've got some tomatoes, water for stock. I've got my bouillon powder because there's bags full of flavour in there. To enhance the flavour, we've got some paprika, some chilli, some cumin. I just remembered I need, reaching over to the other table, some garlic. So I'm going to use this pickled garlic that I have got that needs using up. And we're going to start by sautéing the onion and some of the garlic in a pan, and then we'll go from there. Right, so once the onion and the garlic is done, basically go in with your potatoes, your sweet corn, your black beans and your peppers. Basically just chuck everything else in there. I did have a nice little section where I was telling you about everything I was putting in, but we also toasted off our herbs, no, our spices. So our spices were 2 teaspoons of cumin, a teaspoon of paprika and a little bit of chilli, depending on what your chilli tolerance is. I don't know what happened, my phone is being a pain because that's all I record on, is just on my phone. So that's all gone in there. I will post a link to the recipe that I kind of borrowed from in the description box, because clearly I'm having terrible issues at the moment. I had an issue, I think it was last week, with the soup recipe as well. So there we go. So next was my bouillon powder, which is a mixture of different things like onion powder, garlic powder, tomato skins that have been ground up. It's just a really rich powder. It's going to be a lot better than a vegetable stock. If you've only got a vegetable stock, that's fine, but you might just need to edit your seasonings a little bit. So I'm just going to use this to rinse out, and I'm just going to pour in enough that we're going to cover. So let's make sure that that's, yeah, that's covered. Make sure everything is gone underneath that liquid, and we are going to bring to a boil, reduce to low, because this retains the heat and will just boil even on the low heat. So I'll probably transfer it to a low burner, so I'll probably swap it to my right hand burner, and that's where we are up to, and we'll come and have a look once we have cooked it down. So this came to the boil, made a bit of a mess, typical. I had to put it on my low heat. This is on the lowest heat I can get it on, and because of this cast iron pan, it's still bubbling away, but everything is cooked. I have stuck a knife into the sweet potato, but if we look, there we go, all good through. So let's have a bit of a taste. Now I should really get a bit of sweet potato on my spoon. I just want to get a little bit of everything. So there we go. Now this is going to be nuclear hot, as usual. Pour a bit of that off. Nuclear hot. Hot. Oh, that is blindingly hot. I'm going to turn that off now because that's well cooked. But that was really tasty. Not too spicy as well. It's not going to blow Chris's head off, which is a good thing. But this is a really nice dish. If you are like into I know, I kind of want to go southwestern style dishes. They're a little bit spicy. It's not Mexican. Is it Tex-Mex style? Possibly. Beans and corn, sweet potato, tomatoes, some spices, tomato. Yeah, this is great. This with a bit of cornbread. Oh, I love cornbread. If you've never seen my cornbread recipe, I do Ree Drummond's cornbread recipe. I will post a link in the description box. It is done in a skillet to start with, and then it goes in the oven. It is an absolutely delicious, delicious cornbread, and I absolutely love it. So I have a feeling I might have to make some cornbread now. Oh well. So in my shopping video, which will be coming out after this, I got quite a few of these for a really good price, and I don't particularly want to use them for burgers. Now I know from past use, when you defrost them, they do go quite squidgy. So I thought, do you know what? Let's make them into meatballs. So I am going to add some garlic and some, don't tell Chris, coriander to this. So I'm just going to scrunch up. This is stuff that I dried myself. That in there, there's only going to be a little bit. You won't really notice. And if we don't mention it, then it's all good. I'm also going to put in some of this garlic. So we're going to make a meatball soup. It's Mexican albandigas soup. Albandigas means meatballs, basically. And I've had a look online and got a general sense of what to put in. I'm not being traditional because, you know, it all depends on what you've got. Now, I've got potato, so that's going in. I've got tomatoes. I've got some courgette that we grow in the garden. I've got a carrot. So I'm going to start with those. I was thinking about putting some beans in, but we'll have to see. It's not a traditional thing in there, is the beans, but it just depends on how much mixture we end up having, how many meatballs we've got, and how much sauce we end up doing. So I just want to make sure that I've got a really good, hearty, flavoured soup. So like I say, I'm just going to get this all chopped up nice and small. So I normally go in with my knife like this. You could grate it if you wanted to, but I didn't. I've also bought some jarred garlic, which is garlic paste, so I could have used that as well, but I decided to go for the fresh. I put a little bit of salt on there, and then I'm just going to use my knife to squidge it, and the salt's like an abrasive, so it, can you hear it crunching? There you go. Will help to break down the fibres in the garlic. So that's one of the ways I will do it. There we go. That should be quite nice. I don't want it too madly pureed, so I'm going to put about half of that in there. I'm going to save the rest for the soupy part. Put my frying pan on, which is, I'm just going to put some of my spray oil in there as well. And then as soon as I've made these meatballs, we can start getting them in. Now I'm going to start mixing this in with a fork. So you see that, look, they mash together really quite well. Now I am going to wet my hands because that will help stop the meatball from sticking. Put that light on as well. There we go. That's just the overhead light on the oven. There we go. So I'm just going to rinse my hands under the tap. Just get them a little bit damp, not absolutely soaking wet, but just damp. And we're going to get in there and make ourselves some little meatballs. There we go. So they're sort of slightly smaller than golf ball size that I'm kind of going for. It's just, I don't want them too big for this soup. I want to be able to scoop one up and have it on the spoon fact, I could have gone even smaller for that kind of situation, but this is what we're doing. We are just doing the meatballs and dropping them in. Okay, I reckon I've got 4 so far, 5, maybe 5 from one patty, so maybe 10 meatballs in total, we shall see. All the vegetables are nicely prepped. I've just done them into a rough dice, so that's probably not even a centimetre by a centimetre, some's probably a little bit smaller. Same with the courgette. Potatoes are done a bit bigger. Onion can already hear in there, and yeah, I forgot to do an onion, so there's an onion in there already. I've prepped my tomato with the lid off, and I've got some of my bouillon powder because we're going to put in some water as well to make like a stock. So if I spin you around this way, let's see, there we go. Meatballs are done. Not too worried about them cooling off a bit because they will reheat in the sauce, which is what you want to do because it will absorb all that flavour, but they are all nicely done. Like I say, onion is going great guns in there. I'm going to add the carrot to that. Now you could put celery in here as the carrot, onion, celery trinity of flavour, but I haven't got any, so I can't. I could, however, if I remember, I got some celery salt. I have a little bit of celery salt. I'll remember to put that in a little bit, so we'll pop that in shortly. But in the meantime, we are just going to let that go round and cook off a little bit. So we're going to cook that for probably another 3 or 4 minutes before adding the other ingredients and then all the stocks and things like that. In next with the garlic, just for a minute or so, because we don't want that to be too scorched. I think that's one of the worst things. People put onions and garlic in at the same time and your garlic ends up getting burnt and it just doesn't taste very nice. So there we go, that's going in, and then everything else, we are going to plop all of that in there. There we go, so that's the courgette from the garden. Potatoes not from the garden because we've run out of garden potatoes from that little haul that I managed to get from last year's potatoes. Tomatoes. And then some of our bouillon mix. You just use a stock cube if you haven't got any of this, but just throw in a bit of extra, maybe garlic powder and onion powder. There we go. It's 2 tablespoons of that, and a heck of a lot of water. So you want enough water to be able to cover everything. There we go. So now all we're going to do is I'm going to pop a lid on this and make sure that it comes to the boil, and we just turn it down on a simmer just until all the potatoes are nicely cooked. I'm going to throw in a little bit extra coriander. Don't tell off me. There we go. We'll just say it's herbs. But if I throw in some other mixed herbs as well, if I've got any, yes I have. Throw in a little bit of mixed herbs. That will help with the flavour as well. There we go. Like I say, bring this to the boil. Turn it down to a simmer until your potatoes are near enough cooked. And then I've got to decide. Beans, not beans. Beans, not beans. Like I say, not traditional, but we'll bulk it up and make it taste super, super good. Almost forgot, a little bit of celery salt. That's about a teaspoon. This has been simmering away for about 20 minutes or so. Potatoes are just tender, and yes, I've decided I'm putting the beans in. So these are taco beans. So giving them a sniff and giving it a read on the back, it is mixed beans, which consists of kidney beans, pinto beans, cannellini beans, haricot beans, black-eyed beans, tomato puree, but some red peppers, onion, mace starch, black pepper, cayenne pepper, and black pepper extract. So we're going to bung that in there and give that a taste and decide whether or not that needs any extra seasoning, because I was going to add some, you know, flavourings like cayenne and stuff in there, but I'm not sure whether the beans flavouring in there makes it necessary. So let's have a little taste. Nah, it needs more. What are we going for? A little bit of cayenne, not too much. Teaspoon of cayenne for this quantity, I reckon. A little bit of normal paprika. Probably again whoop! That maybe have been slightly over a teaspoon. Let's mix that through. So all we've got to do now is just warm the beans, and we're going to put the meatballs in because they're going to need warming as well. Let's again have another taste. There we go. Warming, little kick at the back, but not too much. Right, meatballs in. Now, if we end up eating all this and eating all the meatballs, the base soup is still going to be really, really good, because this is going to be too much for us to eat for tea tonight. So I know we will have leftovers. But even if you've just got the leftovers of the main vegetable section, it's still going to be really good. And having the beans in there, still really good protein. So I'm going to give this another 5 minutes. And that should be long enough. And then we can dish up. We are done, we are ready, we are steamy hot and lovely and tasty, and turning the heat off. And this definitely calls for a deep bowl of delicious goodness. There we go. Definitely get more meatballs on there. How does that look? Let's do a final taste over here. Here we go. Little bit of meatball. Oh, nice and soft. Bit of potato. Get some beans and veg on there. Obviously, going to be steaming hot, so blow. Okay, here we go. Oh, well done Beyond Burgers for making really tasty meatballs. Saved me having to use those as just burgers, and they've got lovely seasoning in them anyway, so I didn't have to add much to them at all. What flavours have they got? So it's mostly pea protein, coconut oil, rice protein, potato starch, apple extract, beetroot, obviously for the colour, salt, lemon juice, carrot powder. Really, you know, but it's not got anything too overpowering, but it's really, really tasty and makes, as you can see, a lovely, tender meatball. So, albandigas soup, meatball soup. Now, don't laugh at this soup. However, think about it. Soups that contain carrots, parsnip and swede and mashed potato blended together sounds really tasty. So I'm being lazy today. This was in the freezer. I got this earlier this year in an oleo. So it was reduced and I got it for free in an oleo. I'm going to turn this into a soup. So it is potato with carrots, parsnip, swede, mashed with milk and butter. So all I'm going to do is just dump it in a pan. It's going to be way too thick, although it's got a bit of water in it because I've defrosted it. I'm going to mush it down. There we go. And it's gone a bit lumpy, so I'm going to add some milk to it and give it a good mix. There we go. a little bit of mixed herb, a little bit of onion powder I think though. Onion powder, garlic powder, you can't go wrong with those two. There we go. A little bit of mixed herb, just to zhuzh it up a little bit. Give those a bit of a mix. Might need to blend those because the garlic powder and whatever is a bit lumpy at the moment. I've bought some fresh to top up because I'm right near the bottom. So heat that up and I'm just going to go and get the hand stick blender. There we go, I've given that a blend now because this was a mash, so obviously it wasn't a smooth consistency, but I have smoothed it out. That is a nice thick soup, and that's a really decent vegetable soup. So that's my top 10 soups from that year of soups. If you would like to watch the rest of the year and all the other nearly 40 plus videos that I made, I will put a link to the playlists, either be there or there, depending on which side YouTube decides to put it on. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said at the beginning, put in the comments below which soup would have been your favourite, and hit me up with any other brilliant soup ideas. I'm always looking to add more to my list. Thanks for watching. I was Samantha, this was the channel Trying to Get By, and I will see you next time.